Hi, I'm Scott Brody. I wrote The Org. The Org is the story of an obscure political cult fighting climate change, the Eco Party USA, whose charismatic leader, Lee Beloit, rises to national prominence after the mysterious assassination of one of his members, Marianne Wolfe. The excerpt I'm reading today takes place the day after the murder. Marianne's ex-boyfriend, James Roth, and journalist Walt Jones are on their way to meet Marianne's sister, Rachel, to see what information she might have which could help them identify the killers. Google Maps was telling him they had reached their destination. A girl was waiting for them. Had to be Marianne's sister. The resemblance was strong. "Hi, I'm Rachel," she said. "I'm not sure this is a good idea. I don't feel much like talking." "Yes, of course," Walt said. "We're terribly sorry for your loss. I'm Walt Jones from Poor Richard's. I knew your sister, and this is James Roth." "Thank you," she said to Walt. Then she turned to James. No handshake or hug offered. She just looked at him sadly. "It's good to meet you finally, James. Marianne talked about you a lot." James wasn't sure how to answer. She paused for a minute, thinking. Then she seemed to make her decision. "I don't know how I can help, but we can talk for a bit if you want to. This is a nightmare. My parents are closed up in their bedroom. They can't talk. I need to get back to them soon." She surprised them by getting into the back seat of Walt's truck. They sat in the car and talked with the windows cracked. Walt asked her about her father's history with the FBI. How often had they met or talked, he wanted to know. "I'm not here much. I live in Boston," Rachel said. "I know of 4 meetings, but there were more." Rachel told Walt about the only time she had gone with her father to tell the FBI what she knew about the Eco Party USA. Walt took several pages of notes. Rachel turned to James. "So you're in the organization now, I mean?" "Yes," he said. "How can you? I mean, really?" "We're doing good things," James said. "Beloit's a fucking madman. Come on, you know I'm right. He probably killed her, or had her killed. Poor Marianne, so horrible. Who would do that to another human being?" She started to cry. "I can't believe she's gone." They waited while she stopped crying and blew her nose. "You know I'm right, don't you?" she said to James. He collected his thoughts. He didn't want to talk to her about Beloit that day. "I don't think he killed her. Marianne was no threat of any sort. Why would Beloit want her dead? I don't think so." "You don't know him, James," she said. "You'll get chewed up in this group. That's what happens to the nice ones. Have you ever met Lee?" "No," he said. "Of course not. He doesn't talk to people like you." Rachel was subdued. "I don't even care about Beloit anymore. Marianne's dead. We can't bring her back. Let the cops figure out who killed her. I'm worried about my dad. He's sure this was on him. You know what I mean? He's convinced Marianne's death was his fault because he talked to the FBI. He's crushed beyond words. Honestly, I'm worried he may do something, to himself." She started to cry again. James opened the window all the way and let the cold, fresh air in. It felt good. It was one of those increasingly rare, dry, cold, very bright winter days in the Northeast. Most days now it was cloudy and rainy. Deep blue sky with some cottony clouds out there today. Rachel was breathing normally again. "I think it's more my fault, to tell you the truth," she said. They both protested. "Why?" Walt asked. "I was in the org first. I pulled her in. If it wasn't for me, she'd never have heard of Lee Beloit. She'd be alive today." "That was years ago. You can't blame yourself," James said. "I know, but still. No, you didn't do this. Someone killed her. They're the guilty ones, not you, not your father. Okay?" She sighed. "Actually, the org damaged her the most. James, she was never the same after everything that went down with you and her. It took something out of her she could never get back." That hit him like a runaway truck. He was horror-struck. He'd been thinking something like that, but couldn't bear to believe it was true. He winced, afraid he was going to be sick right there. That was terrible, was all he could manage. Walt didn't know the history and wanted to get the conversation back on track. "Rachel, when was the last time you spoke to the FBI?" he asked her. "Maybe a year ago." "Do you know who you spoke to?" he said. "I have their cards somewhere. Can you text them to me?" Walt asked. "Okay. It might be important," he said. The conversation paused. James thought Rachel was looking pale. I need to go now, guys. I can't talk anymore. James, I didn't mean to say anything hurtful to you. I'm sorry if I did. James didn't know what to say. It's a hard day, Walt said. We appreciate you talking to us at all. There was a man walking towards them. Here comes my dad, Rachel said, getting out and going over to him. Walt followed her. James hung back for a bit, thinking Mary Ann's father probably wouldn't want to see him today. She introduced Walt and called him over. James, this is my father, Ed Wolf. Sir, I'm so sorry. I knew Mary Ann. And totally unexpectedly, James choked up, eyes filled with tears. He had to stop talking and hold back a sob, wiping his eyes, catching his breath. He realized this was the first time he had cried for Mary Ann. He didn't understand why it had taken him so long or why this moment opened him up. It's okay, son, Ed said quietly. We've all been doing a lot of crying. She was a special girl. I'm glad you got to know her. We've met before, haven't we? If you want to find out what happens, the org is on sale at Amazon or on the Barnes & Noble site and all the major outlets. Hope you enjoy it. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you very much.